Did you get the Wi-Fi figured out?
No.
Okay. I think it's winter 2021.
Jason's not here today?
He's going to. That's what I have. Capital W.
On town?
Yeah. Oh, town 2, maybe. Actually, I think it lets you look at what your phone's on, doesn't it? I think town 2 is what we have to be on because that's what the extender is, I'm pretty sure. Oh, it says incorrect password. Oh no. Maybe it changed and no one told me.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, well done.
Town 2.
Good. Okay. I need 2 seconds again.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Good to go on? Deputy Clerk. Okay, I'll call the committee, the whole meeting to order at 4:32. And we'll start off with the disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. You can declare it now or at any time during the meeting if it so arises. The first thing I would like to bring up is if everybody would pull your mic to your mouth and talk into it when you do so. Thank you. We are fortunate to have 2 delegations tonight with us. And I'll begin with Tammy Faykes, who's going to give a talk on Atikokan Housing and Homelessness Committee. Tammy, if you would approach the mic, please, and speak into it. You have 10 minutes, hon. Tammy.
Timer on?
Okay. So good afternoon, Mayor, members of the Town of Atikokan Council, and fellow community members. I am here today on behalf of the Atikokan Housing and Homelessness Coalition to discuss an urgent issue facing our town. The severe lack of affordable housing and social housing units has resulted in a rising crisis of homelessness affecting vulnerable individuals, youth, seniors still, and families. Our community, like many others in our district, is experiencing significant housing shortages. But what makes our situation even more pressing is that we do not have a local shelter, warming shelter for out of the cold in the winter months to support those who are unhoused. So let me first kind of outline the facts that we've seen as a committee. The housing crisis in our community from the front line. Over the past 5 years since the Atikokan Housing and Homelessness Coalition was formed, we've seen a noticeable rise in homelessness, despite being in a small town. Without local shelter or warming shelter for out of the cold, those experiencing homelessness have limited to no options for temporary relief, often resorting to living in cars, night stay at a local post office, couch surfing, or sleeping outdoors. The rental market is also a barrier for many at-risk individuals facing homelessness. Lack of social housing units, especially single dwelling units, has been identified in our community for many years and has been brought to the attention of the District of Rainy River Social Service Board. But with limited funds allocated throughout the region, our community seems to fall short of funding opportunities. We have also witnessed renters to be very selective on who they rent to. Being in a smaller community makes this difficult for people with limited funds or on social assistance. 2, the impact of homelessness in our town. The absence of a local shelter exasperates the hardships faced by the most vulnerable citizens here. Lack of temporary housing, individuals who lose their homes or are acutely homeless have nowhere to go in the community. The closest shelter with more resources than what we can offer is in Fort Francis, winter only, or in Thunder Bay, which creates another barrier, transportation, to safely get them to a more appropriate location. Health and safety risks. Living without shelter exposes people to severe weather, physical insecurity, and poor health outcomes, which increases the strain on emergency services and local health care facilities. Economic and social instability. Families and individuals who cannot afford rent are at risk of being displaced, and employees are finding it harder to remain in town to rising costs and appropriate housing. This may have a contingent effect on local businesses, schools, and the broader community. Possible root causes of homelessness shortage. Rising cost of construction have slowed down new developments, especially affordable social housing units. Outdated zoning laws. This can restrict more diverse and affordable housing developments such as multifamily units and mixed-use housing like single units. Lack of government funding, incentives and fair distributions for affordable social housing in small communities like ours has made it extremely difficult to build or subsidize housing. The need for action. Recommendations. While the situation is challenging, it is not without solutions. We propose the following actions to address the immediate and long-term needs of our community, which I think will be ongoing and changing as it is all over the country. First, we need to acknowledge that there is a housing and homelessness crisis in our community of Atikokan. Modernize zoning regulations to allow for higher density housing, including more multi-family homes, single affordable units, modular housing, and more affordable senior housing units. Explore community partnerships to encourage the conversions of underutilized buildings. An example of this could be like North Star School. Have the Atikokan representative of the District of Rainy River Social Board provide regular updates at every town council meeting. Develop emergency solutions. Support homelessness initiatives within the community. Designate and waive the fee for 3 tent sites at Bunnell Park during its open season. Support the Atikokan Housing and Homelessness Coalition in establishing a temporary indoor shelter during the colder months or in extreme weather conditions. Pursue and advocate both provincial and federal funding for housing and homelessness initiatives. Request that the provincial government consider reviewing the housing application process to explore alternative ways to verify income or reduce the reliance of the notice of assessment, such as allowing applicants to submit other forms of documentation like bank statements or social assistant confirmation. Addressing and identifying barriers can make the housing application process more accessible, equitable, and supportive for the individuals who need housing the most. At this time, I thank you for allowing me the time to talk about this important issue, and I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Councillor Shine?
Chair Johnson, can you give a number of how many people we actually have homeless within the community or that are couch surfing?
A few years ago, the DSAB had a survey that they put out. Didn't really give accurate numbers, and I believe that we are looking at doing that again throughout the region. What I can tell you is last year we, our emergency shelter team from the Atikokan Housing Coalition, I believe we had 7 to 10 individuals that were homeless, and we were able to provide supports, but I'll tell you, it was very, very difficult because Atikokan, we don't have those resources. We're not equipped for these resources. None of the agencies and people that had referred a lot of the homelessness individuals to our temporary emergency shelter team were prepared. They didn't even know how to handle it. And so what I can tell you is we had secured a few dollars from the DSAB, which was really great. Last winter, we were able to house and utilize, I think it was up to $10,000, about $10,000, close to 11, in emergency shelter needs. And they were utilized to the max. We are working with the DSAB, and they do recognize it. And I think, I applaud the DSAB because I think they're looking at initiatives. I think there's going to be some good things come out in the next little while because I think it's when I say good things, I mean there's going to be hopefully some positive outcomes because it's recognized not only in our community, but in our whole district. So we'll see what happens. We're working towards support, and right now I think our biggest challenge is the colder weather's coming. And we do have some funds available, but that being said, we don't have the accommodation. We might not have the accommodation like we did last year. So it's a little bit, we're going to be a little bit stressful. Our team meets up again this month, and we're going to look at some solutions and possible ideas. You're welcome.
Yes, Mayor Fergie.
Oh, thank, through the chair, Tammy. I want to thank you for coming to council and bringing this very important matter to council's attention, or re-bringing it to their attention. I can't speak for all of council, but if there was a proponent that was interested in some sort of affordable housing, I think council would be very open to rezoning or making those changes, or working with the proponent to find property that we would be happy to rezone if there was. I think would all be in agreement on that. Just a couple other things. Come to my attention that there may be a group interested in running a warming center. Is that, I heard something about that. I don't know how far along the line.
Well, I think, like I said, our emergency shelter group is just in the meeting stages right now, and I mean, it's all contingent on funding and capacity. Capacity is a huge one in our community. It's hard enough to get volunteers out to do anything, like, you know, when it comes to even recreational activities. It's like, I can't imagine what it's going to be like to have a warming center housed by volunteers, or, you know, maybe get funds down the road. That would be great because it might create a job. So we're looking at that. That's like an ongoing need, and I'm really hopeful that will happen within our coalition.
Great. Just, I have a couple things more, Chair Johnson. I'm the DSAB rep for the town of Atikokan, so I would be more than happy to share the minutes from the DSAB meetings. Of course, there's things in camera that I can't discuss, but I pound the table for more housing for Atikokan, and we are looking at some options, as you said, and hopefully the wheels grind very slowly, but hopefully we will have a facility that DSAB may be able to convert, which would be very welcome to the community. And I just want to mention as well, one last thing, that the municipality pays DSAB $72,000 a month for social services. So it's not like the town doesn't provide funds, but we have to make sure that for our money that we're getting, there's a lot of things that come out of that pool of $72,000, not just housing, but we have to make sure that we're trying to leverage DSAB to get our fair share of that. We are the second largest community in the Rainy River District, so we should be getting our share of that as well. So, and I will keep working towards that, and I applaud I'm on your committee, and I applaud the work that
our
the committee's doing.
emergency shelter group as well, just so that might be easier instead of bringing information back, so something to consider as well.
Okay, great.
Councillor Stimpson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Johnson. I think that DSAB has to realize that everything isn't for Fort Francis. They just, a little while ago, they were talking about, I was at a meeting over at the ADC, and they were talking about building singles apartments. And they said they wanted to try it out, so they built one in Fort Francis. So this was when Dan McCormick was there. I asked Dan after, I said, how come you can't try something in Atikokan? Like, at that time, we were needing places for single people to live at, to work at Resolute, and there was nothing. But DSAB has that building there, or is gonna, or I don't know, I guess they, whenever the school board declares it vacant, that might be a good thing to press them on to turn that into some kind of, like, the gym could be a homeless shelter, and they can put apartments in there or something. Like, I know that, a lot of people think that, there's no homeless people in Atikokan because they don't see, they're used to, on TV, watching and seeing a person sleeping in a cardboard box. And that's not the way it is lots of times. Like you were explaining, it's couch surfing, and I've seen, evidence of people sleeping that have been in the post office and, I don't know, the bank lobby. So, definitely there is a need for it. And we were just lucky last year we had a good winter. This winter could be 40 below all the time. And so hopefully you can get something going here.
Well, I'd like to add to that too. I want to just commend the DSAB actually, because on our coalition we do have representation that from the Fort Francis office that supports our coalition quite well, and the individual has been very supportive. And I must also add that I think we're looking at a community, but it's also a regional thing too as well. So. And I think we just have to advocate for people. Like my last statement about, recommending that like we change the laws for some, or the criteria for applying for social housing. That's the biggest obstacle. And for every agency, it's like, a notice of assessment to even apply for social housing, especially if you have somebody that might, be having some mental health issues that are 25 years that they haven't even applied for income tax, their income taxes. So again, that whole process, but where do they go in the meantime? It could take months for them to get to that. We need to look at that. And then there's a by name list that is also, it's not working. It's identifying people that are acutely homeless to like fast track them basically. Am I right, Corinne? And, I think there's better solutions than this. We live in a small community, and it's like the rising cost, the inflation, all of that. It's like we need to be working together for everybody and caring for our vulnerable folks. And I'll have to tell you too, it's also seniors. We were really it was wonderful to have a senior complex come about, but also to the reality of some that did get into it and then couldn't afford the rent. So, I mean, again, there have been some displaced seniors that we also need to look at. It's everybody. So, yeah, I just would just support and changing the recommendations, even in the 3-day, the pilot that we had for the 3-day or the camping at Bunnell Park was a success. It was a pilot, but we are asking for 3 days, or for, was it 3 days?
3 campsites.
Oh, 3 sites, sorry, 3 sites. 3 sites for the summer months. That would support the summer for sure. So we hope that you would look at the recommendations that we have and just be a big support for our community.
Yes, Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. I think it's important too that we do have to keep after the government, just to remember, it's not just like the city of Thunder Bay or the city of Hamilton that has these issues with homelessness.
Yeah.
It's also, they need to be able to set their budgets to allocate to our small communities.
Yeah.
Because, the town doesn't have the money. We may be able to help in other ways, but without the support of the government behind it.
Yeah. And in the homelessness report too, there was it was quite interesting actually, that they were saying people from larger or from rural areas are moving to bigger centers just because there was more tent sites and more opportunities for people experiencing homelessness in bigger centers. Well, last year I can tell you that was not the case. We had homelessness individuals from the Greater Toronto area, from Thunder Bay, and from the region. And it's a very complex issue because every homelessness experience is so different. And I mean, some want the help, some don't, and then when they don't want the help, it's like, okay, where do we go from here? So it's a very complex issue, and I just think we just need to be on top of things as a community.
Any other questions for Tammy? Well, Tammy, thank you very kindly for your presentation. And I see in your presentation that there's a couple of items that the township can address. So I would like to see that brought to one of our meetings and we discuss that and hopefully help you out in that, in your requests.
Thank you.
Thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
Okay, our second delegation will be Gwenda Mosbeck, and she's going to talk about the safety within the community of Atikokan. You have 10 minutes.
Mine won't be as long. I just have a couple of issues. I live on 57 Poplar, and behind my home is an area that belongs to the town. So they cut the grass and stuff like that. I was driving through there the other day going to remove some shingles from my house, and my vehicle fell into a hole that was 3.5 feet deep. And I played soccer with my grandson back there. My grandson fell into a hole that's about 2 feet deep. My neighbor walked across, because there is paths, you know, that go, but if you go off that path, it becomes very dangerous. So Christy Devine one time was walking home at night, no lighting or whatever, fell into one of the holes, ended up at the emergency department, sprained ankle. So I think, you know, I think that should be looked at. I mean, it does belong to you. And like if you have like when I worked, we had a board where you could put areas of concern. Like, for instance, the guys cutting the grass would know about that when they're out there cutting it, right? Because they cut over it and avoid the holes so that you can't see it because the grass is so long. You know, and I know the town's aware of some of it because one of their pylons is there. I put my pylon in the hole that's 3.5 feet deep. And I did bring pictures and measured it and all that if you just wanted to see it. But, so that was one of the issues that I had. The second one was on Mackenzie Bridge, the bridge down here at the end. And so I use Facebook, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I was just sharing with people. The oddest thing happened. I was going across the bridge to pick up scaffolding. I was renting from the Fix-It Club. And I found a board on the bridge, and I said, oh my God, I'm gonna remove that, you know, in case, I thought somebody lost it off their trailer. I lifted the board up, there's a hole underneath it. I'm like, oh my God, this is the weirdest thing. I think I'll put the board down and I'll ride over it, it's gotta be safer. Somebody's seen that on Facebook that works for the town, I don't know who it was. I went back there a week later, because I had to go back, and they have it highlighted in white, and it's got nails in it. I'm thinking, okay. And the nails were brown. And I'm thinking, I went to pick the board up, nails come out of the concrete. I'm thinking, that ain't no good either. So I went across there another time later on. The nails changed from silver to blue, but they capped off. So if somebody runs over that board, you might get a flat tire, and I'd be careful. That, you know, and I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful or nothing, but they're just, but anyways, okay. And so then the next thing I had was an issue I had at the garbage dump. Actually, there was two of them. One is, even though I live in Atikokan, when I was driving to the dump, I passed the Pipeline Road. I'm thinking, oh my God. Backed up. I said, how come there's not a sign right, you know, right at the beginning of it? Because, I mean, I'm from Atikokan. Imagine people that aren't, you know, wouldn't know where that would be, or, you know, like, I think somebody told me, I think, Sue, did you tell me that you were working on that? Yeah. that it has to go through, and I wasn't aware of that. So you can forget that part, because it is kind of being taken care of. But the other thing was, it had rained the day that I was doing a dump run. And have any of you been at the dump when it's really, really raining? Take rubber boots, okay, and you have to have four-wheel drive. Because when I was dumping my load, I got stuck. And I said, oh my God, Robbie, what am I gonna do? He says, oh, don't worry, I got equipment to pull you out. And then I remembered my...
Just to caution you, try and refrain from bringing up names.
Oh, so, okay, I didn't mean to do that, but that's what he's... And then I remembered I had my daughter's truck, and she had four-wheel drive. I said, thank God, because I really didn't... But everybody else knew what to do. They all come with rubber boots, the contractors. Not me. And it is really the road, when it rains so hard, the road kind of dissolves. The water trickles down that road, except for at the bottom where you keep all the metal in that, because there's rock there, right? And I mean, I don't know, maybe you haven't been out there. But anyways.
I've been out a few times.
So that's all I have. Okay.
Okay, has anybody got any questions for Gwenda? I have a couple,
Okay.
Gwenda. You say that hole was 3.5 feet deep,
Yeah, I brought pictures.
but the grass cutting crew went over it to cut the grass. I don't understand that part.
Well, because they must go over it and they didn't get stuck, so the grass stays long. You can't see the hole visually until you hit it. You know what I'm saying?
So they don't fall in the hole when they're cutting it?
No,
You did?
They must know to go around it. They must know where it is. That's what I'm telling you.
Just-
Because one of the town's pylons is at the smaller hole that's about 2 feet deep.
Because I was
One that's
concerned.
3 feet deep, that's my pylon, and when you're done, I'll have it back.
And I just went across the bridge this morning, and I do believe that that is repaired.
It's what?
It's repaired on Mackenzie Bridge. I see asphalt patch over that hole.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I do have 2 nephews that would have used the board as, you know, for their bikes to jump over. And then I'm thinking, oh my God. But anyways, I'm glad it's fixed, really, because I did bring it to somebody's attention, and obviously they got the job done. So thank you.
So is there no other further questions? Thank you for bringing all your concerns to the township, and we will look into them 2 other items for you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Administration and Employee Relations, Strategic Planning and Organizational Assessment Initiative, RFP. I'll pass that over to Jason.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Yeah, in your agenda package is my report, as well as the RFP that went out. We were very surprised and happy with the response that we received. We received 6 excellent proposals, quite lengthy and detailed, and we went through them and scored them, and bringing forth a recommendation to award the project to KPMG. Happy to take any questions, comments.
Councillor Shine.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. In your RFP, you said there'd be public consultation. Who's going to be doing it? Is it the town's going to be doing the consultations, the council, or the person that's going to be doing the work?
Yeah, the beauty about the project is the KPMG will do all consultation, and they're in charge of setting it up, collecting the data, and bringing it back. There'll be multiple meetings with council, staff, and public surveys, and I believe at least 1 town hall, if we can make that happen. So, but it's up to them as part of the proposals, how they design that and how they collect the information.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Jason.
Any other questions for Jason? Jason, was this a budgeted item?
Yeah, so we had talked about there's some funding connected to this, and we do have the remainder of the money in our budget, so the project's fully funded, and we're asking to pass a resolution to award the contract at the council meeting just because of the timelines, and we want to get going on this, and once we get that lockdown, you'll hear from them very soon.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I'd just like to, Chair Johnson, just to reaffirm that 90% was a grant for this. It's a $100,000 project, but 90,000 was a grant the town had to put up 10%.
Right on. We like that. Okay, moving on to finance. I'll pass that over to Brandy.
Okay, so you all have the project update. I'm assuming that you've all had a chance to review it and don't want me to go through it line by line. I only have two concerns with, and they're both our big projects, being over budget. Other than that, I'm not aware of anything significant. So if anybody has questions on individual projects or specific lines.
Councillor Stimson?
Yes, I don't know if I'm asking you the right question or not, but this footbridge that's going to be going over to from the library to Maple, when is it going to be put in?
As reported at a previous meeting, we're shooting for the middle of October.
Middle of October? All right. Is it already built?
In fabrication, yeah.
Fabrication. Okay, great. Thank you.
No further question. I guess, Brandy, you can carry on.
Next is just the regular revenues and expenses. If any, I don't have any major concerns there, again, except for our two large projects being over budget. The other one that I recall off the top of my head is sewer lawsuit fees will be over budget, but I believe we should be able to take care of those between planning and admin legal fees. Other than that, I don't recall anything jumping out at me. Anybody has any questions about that?
Carry on, girl.
Okay, so the next one is based on the discussion at last week's meeting. So at the next council meeting, you're going to have a resolution to enter into a contract for the Pine Crescent storm work. Storm, right? So that came in significantly over budget, so we have to cut other budget lines in order to do that work. Normally, I wouldn't recommend even awarding the contract because of the significant overages in our large projects. I have financial concerns about the overall budget, but I think that work has already started, so I think we have to move forward with it. So moving these budget lines will allocate the extra funding to cover that project. So basically it's taking $25,000 from the Mackenzie Bridge Engineering and Geo, $112,000 from the pedestrian bridge replacement, $150,000 from patching, $50,000 from sewer CCTV, and that we'll move that money to the Pine Crescent path of $337,000. The other budget change we just threw in here because it was an opportunity we may have is we had budgeted for the admin building to buy a boiler this year, but there now may be an opportunity to purchase LED lights at a big incentive, a big savings. So if that turns out to be true, we just changing that project budget line from a boiler to boiler or LED lights, depending on how significant the incentive is, or if it's better to defer the boiler to next year and take advantage of the incentive. So there's no change in that budget line, just what we're purchasing potentially.
Questions? Councillor?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Just got one, and you might have said it, but I never wrote it down. What was just a ballpark overage on that culvert job? Just a ballpark.
For the whole project?
Yeah.
I don't have all the information. I'm missing change orders and that sort of thing, but based on their numbers, the change from the original project to the current project, 2.4 million extra. And I don't believe that includes the emergency work.
Did we ever go after them or withhold money from them from when they, they had those mishaps there where the water roared through there and took away all the stuff, or was that?
Yeah, so the amount that Brandy quoted you, as she had stated, was what the contractor is putting forward. There are monies in dispute right now, so there are no final figures.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Councillor Shine, you had a question?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. It might be more for Tyler. So Tyler, this summer we've seen that there was a crew in town doing the patching down Main Street, correct? Was that part of this, what do you call it, patching capital? Or,
No, that's crack sealing.
Oh, and then that was a separate budget altogether. So we haven't done none of our places that you dug up are getting repaired then, basically?
Yeah, I explained that in the last meeting, right?
Okay, I just wanted to clarify which was which.
Any further questions for Brandy? Brandy, I just want to thank you for finding that monies, and probably Tyler too for giving up some of his items so that we could get that job done. That's really appreciated. Thank you.
There will be a resolution going to council for this at the next meeting.
Okay, moving on. Product Care Association of Canada Agreement, waste light bulbs. I'll turn that over to Tyler, I believe.
Yeah, so everything's pretty much in the report. This is the same one, well, not the same, but similar to what we did with the automotive materials. It's just the same thing where the province will pay us back for some of the costs that we incur. As you guys see, it's $1,200 a ton. Unfortunately, it costs us about 4 times that to deal with it, but at least we get something back.
And I see they're going to award us $1,200 a ton for the light bulbs?
Yeah.
Do you know what that works out to per bulb or tall, or?
Like I just said, it's about a quarter of what we pay to get them done. So per kilogram, I guess you're looking at $1.20.
That's a lot of light bulbs.
It's a few.
Councillor Shine.
Chair Johnson, this keeps it out of our dump by going ahead with this, correct?
No, it keeps it out of our dump by us doing the hazardous waste day. What this does is help us just get some money back from doing that event. So out of the $20,000 it costs us with this light program, we'll get like $600 back or something. But when you add them all up, then at least we're covering some of our expenses.
And for those that don't know, Tyler, the depository for that is the Public Works Yard, correct?
We do have a storage site there, yes.
Thank you. Any other further questions? And we will move on to septic dumping station, and that would be Councillor Martin. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Yeah, there was one of the items has actually been resolved. I noticed a manhole cover at the Burnell Park, which was really big and heavy, and I wasn't sure how people were gonna get that off, but there has been a little hatch put on that, so that's great. I guess you guys did that.
That hatch has been there since like way before I started.
Okay, well, the day my son-in-law went to dump his sewer, there was no hatch on that manhole cover. So anyways, but that got me to think, you know, in other communities, typically the waste, the RV dumping station is at the waste, like at the sewer, the waste, you know, where that plant is over there. Anyways, so if there's ever any money, you know, or another grant or any kind of upgrades to that, the sewer plant, that maybe there could be an RV dumping station at the sewer plant, not, you know, 5 miles away, and have there should be like a wash, like a garden hose there, so that you can wash your hoses out after you dump too. So, or I don't know if that would be in the works for Burnell Park. I know it's a little awkward to get your trailer over at Burnell Park, and there's a bigger turnaround over there. So that was all I had. Was I was just concerned about the dump station at Burnell Park, but it's the way it was, and thank you for putting that back.
Tyler?
Yeah, no, sewer dumping station, great idea. I agree, Bunnell Park's actually the worst place that you could have one. You quite literally couldn't go further away from the plant, and it causes us a lot of issues. So to see that get decommissioned and for campground use only, that would be great for sure. The other thing that we'd like to pursue, actually, I don't know if we want to look at doing them both at the same time, but actually a bulk water disposal station, because that causes us a ton of grief as well, and it's a real big missed opportunity for some profit. So
Thank you.
Any further concerns? None being said, that looks like we're at the end of our agenda. I declare the meeting closed. Right? There's no papers to sign? Thank you, Mayor. 5 minutes. Oh, 5-minute break.